Hey, bacon, egg, and cheese, what's up? Is a culture detective here investigating your favorite animes, and today I'm I f- I'm finally going to be doing an anime review on an anime that I finally finished watching. And this anime is Orb on the Movements of the Earth, or in Japanese, Chi, Chikyu no Undo ni Tsuite. This is an anime based off of a manga by Uoto, and it is animated by Madhouse Studios. And if you know anything about anime studios, you would know that Madhouse is indeed a madhouse because they have been producing nothing but amazing shows since the 90s. So nothing can go wrong, pretty much, or little can go wrong, but only a little can go wrong with Madhouse. Madhouse, they're known for Kon Satoshi, they're known for Yuasa Masaki's works. They're great. So, Orb is an anime about astronomy and heliocentrism. It is about people who believe in heliocentrism and take that idea across different generations, across different places. So, the main character of Orb is an idea, it's not a person. Um, yeah. Now, if you don't know this, heliocentrism is the idea that the Earth revolves around the Sun. Yeah, duh, of course. Have you paid attention in second grade science class? But actually, in the early parts of Middle Age, Europe actually believed, or I believe like the rest of the world too, but I might be wrong, believed that the Earth is the center of the universe and the sun, moon, stars, everything revolve around the Earth. That is called geocentrism. But as we enter the Middle Ages around 14th, 15th, and 16th century, we began to have scientists and astronomers proposing the heliocentrism model, most notably Nicolaus Copernicus from Poland, who is a revolutionary astronomer who proposed heliocentrism. We also have Galileo Galilei, who, of course, is the even more well known one, and all that. And nobody's talking about my man Aristarchus. No one's talking about Aristarchus, who is from ancient Greece, who already proposed heliocentrism, but no one's listening to my man Aristarchus. What are you doing, guys? So, anyways, this a lot of people compare Orb to Vinland Saga because it is a period film and it is also a very serious, a very heavy not film. It's a period anime and it is very serious and it's very ambitious as well. And I love that kind of shit. I absolutely love it. So, anyways, I'm gonna try my best not to spoil this anime because so much of it is very easily spoiled. But you may think, well, an anime about science, boring. I prefer watching animes about killing aliens and demons and crazy fights. Why would I watch an anime about science? Well, prepare yourself to be wronged because holy fucking shit, this is a masterpiece. And I'm not saying this lightly, I'm not saying this is a joke. This is such a masterpiece on so many levels. We have our main character, Rafal, who is voiced by the one and only legendary Sakamoto Maya, by the way, one of my favorite voice actresses. Rafal is a young boy. He's smart, he loves astronomy, and he's curious. And he runs into a heretic. And a heretic is someone who goes against Orthodox, or I should stop using Orthodox because people are probably thinking Slavic Christianity. A heretic is someone who goes against mainstream Christian thoughts and beliefs. And in the Middle Ages Europe, if you are against the church, which was extremely powerful back then, you are considered a heretic. And you can be imprisoned, you can be tortured, and worse, you could be killed. Actually, torture is even worse. So, Rafal meets a heretic. And Rafal was a believer, a strong, firm believer of God, Jesus, and the church. But the heretic told him to just look at the sky and observe. Something weird is happening. Why are the stars moving that way? Why is the sun moving some other ways? What if the sun doesn't revolve around the earth and it's the other way around? And thus begin the journey of Rafal and the journey of heliocentrism. And throughout the story, we have Rafal, and then later it introduces a bunch more characters, and one by one, they pass on this idea of heliocentrism. Now, let's first off and point out that in the anime, heliocentrism is suppressed. If you tell anyone about heliocentrism, somebody will report your ass, tell you to the church, and the church will send people to capture you, imprison you, torture you, and kill you. So it's like this really, really radical thing that is politically suppressed, religiously and politically suppressed. In reality, that's not true. It's not historically accurate. In reality, Galileo Galilei was imprisoned, was put on house arrest for proposing heliocentrism, and that's it, apparently. But you know what? That's okay, because this anime never suggested that it's real. This anime takes place in P-land, not Poland. So it's fictional, and that's okay, because this anime is about heliocentrism, but it's actually about so much more. It's about humanity. It's about conviction. It's about believing in a scientific idea and following through, despite the fact that the authorities, the powers that be, are trying to suppress you at every given moment. It's about perseverance. It's about your love for knowledge. It's about endless curiosity against all odds. And I fucking love it. Oh my god. So something happens on episode 3, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I knew nothing before watching Orb. I knew nothing. And when episode 3 happened, I was shook. I did not know the show would pull off something like that. And then when I saw the OP change and everything, I'm like, holy shit. Oh my god, this is different from what I'm used to, and I absolutely love it. Now we have Rafal's arc. We also have other characters, Oxy and Badeni. So Oxy is someone who is afraid of looking at the sky, because the sky is terrifying. Because the sky is something you cannot comprehend, and looking at heaven, which is above you in the sky, reminds him that he is in hell, and that the human world is very corrupted, is very broken, and he can't wait to die. Now he meets this bishop, or not bishop, but like just a father, a priest, Badeni. And Badeni is weird. He has an eye patch. He's been through some rough times. He has scars on his face. Turns out Badeni used to study heliocentrism, but he managed to let go and never touched it again. And when Oxy and Badeni met, they found something that basically forever changed their fates. They revisited heliocentrism. They set up a barn to secretly study it so that the church people will not find out. And it's such an interesting process to see scientists back then work, but also to see them trying to access books while not letting the church know, with the help of some other kind people, is so moving. They're constantly under pressure. By the way, the heliocentrists in the story, the main characters, the protagonists, they are always the underdog. There is not a single moment where they are on an upper hand. Every single episode, something bad happens to them. It's incredibly cruel. This anime is extremely brutal. If a character dies, it dies, because that's history. History is cruel, and this anime reminds us of that. There's no plot armor. Suddenly, a knight finds out, a knight overhears your conversation, reports it to the church sends people to kill you, you're dead, done. There's no plot armor, and then you have to move on. So it is incredibly brutal. But another thing I really love is Uoto's attention to history. Now, again, it's historical fiction, but there's still a lot of elements, a lot of historical elements that really shows how much research Uoto has done. We have a lot of mentions of ancient Greek philosophers and poets and writers, Philolaus, the aforementioned Aristarchus, who is one of the first people who suggested heliocentrism. We have Epicurus and Lucretius, who studied the poems of Epicurus. And then, more importantly, the importance of eyesight. So Oxy has great eyesight. And yeah, your eyesight is great, not a big deal, right? But back in the day when you don't have telescopes, you can only look with your eyes, and they need people with good eyesight. And this anime is really aware of these details. The other detail is the significance of literacy. There is, on episode 10, there is a very powerful scene where the character of Yolenta tells Oxy why reading and writing is a miracle given by God. Turning water into wine, sure. Resurrecting, sure. But reading and writing, knowing words, is beautiful. And because Oxy was illiterate, and then Oxy asked Yolenta, how does reading and writing feel like? And Yolenta was like, it feels like a miracle. Because when I read words, when I write words, I feel like I'm living through emotions, thoughts, feelings, memories of authors from all across the world, from all across history, and all of history has entered my mind. I feel like I just opened a window to the rest of the world and gained extreme sight, like clairvoyance. And I almost cried during this scene. I love scenes, I love stories that take very mundane things and then remind us how not mundane these things are. When I finish this episode, I realize I'm surrounded by words. I pull out my phone, I go to Google, and it's words. There's Wikipedia, there's the internet, there's websites, there's YouTube, there are books, there are films, and I can read them. Isn't that beautiful? And I never really thought about this. I just thought, well, I grew up, I went to school, I learned how to read, I learned how to write. It's like, of course I can read stuff. But back then, back in the Middle Ages, when a great chunk of people are illiterate, to be able to read and write is such a fucking privilege. And it's a gift by God. If God exists, that is. And God definitely exists in this story. Now, let's talk about Yolenta a little bit. This is when I'm going to start including more political elements in this review. This anime is feminist as fuck. So, in the story, women are banned from studying because women are believed to be easily influenced by the devil, they're too emotional, blah blah blah. But Yolenta spends every single day sneaking under a well just to overhear a classroom because she has an undying thirst for knowledge. Just for a bit of knowledge, she would risk her own livelihood. Man, god damn. You know, these days, a lot of people, even me sometimes, are sick of going to school. School is boring, I have nothing to do with this knowledge. But back then, knowledge was precious, and people risk their lives just to learn because knowledge is so good. Who doesn't want to know about the world? Who doesn't want to learn about the deepest, most interesting secrets about the world? Knowledge is gold. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is truth. And another moment was when Oxy, Badeni, and Yolenta basically convince basically the principal of the school to a challenge. If they see the final phase of Venus, they can prove heliocentrism. Now, usually I was at the astronomy club when I was in secondary school for a very brief period of time, and we looked at the moon and stuff, and it's like, okay, cool. But back then, looking at the sky means so much more. Because when you see the final phase of Venus, you see Venus in its full lit up form. It's completely in light. And for that to happen, the sun has to be between Earth and Venus, which literally proves that the Earth revolves around the sun. And so to be able to see the final phase of Venus is such a powerful thing. Also, another moment that really impressed me is when Oxy told Badeni that he wants to learn, he wants to be literate, he wants to write and read. And Badeni was like, commoners shouldn't be literate because if everyone can write and read, misinformation will leak. And this justifies illiteracy. Right now, it sounds radical, or in a bad way. Like, of course everyone should read. But back then, this is the justification people use. And it is attention to details like this that makes a story so damn delicious. Now we have episode 14, which I think is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful episode, beautiful ending, and a callback to the beginning of Oxy's arc. Oxy, in the beginning, he's scared of the sky, he thinks Earth is hell, and then he realized, no, Earth is heaven. Everything's beautiful. Everything makes sense now. And this character arc is so fucking gorgeous. And so is literally everyone's character arcs in the story. They believe in heliocentrism for different reasons. For personal reasons, because they want to save the world, because for money. But all of them have their own philosophies, and they all arrive at heliocentrism at the end. Episode 15, we have some pretty long flashback scenes between Yolenta and her dad. And it's so interesting because Yolenta's dad is evil. But this anime discusses evilness in such an interesting, nuanced way because his dad is evil, but he doesn't realize it. He thinks he's just following God. He thinks he's just following the church. It shows how blind religion can make a person, but also it shows I know it's a very overused term, but the banality of evil. He's evil and he doesn't realize it. And the ending is absolutely crazy. Crazy twist, man. Vinland Saga level twist. Also, such a great depiction of grief as well. Such a personal and heartfelt depiction of grief. Now we enter the second half of the anime, which unfortunately loses a little bit of steam, but only a little bit, because very soon the story picks up its pace, and once again, it's become an unpredictable, brutal series of events and twists and turns. Now we have Draka, who is this girl, and with her slightly dark complexion, I suspect her character is a gypsy, a Romani. But anyways, this arc is so much more interesting now because now we have different factions of Christianity. We have the Catholics, we have the Protestants, who are definitely the underdog, and then we have the underdog's underdog, the heliocentrists, and the Heretics Liberation Front, which is a very small organization that aims to release heretics because they oppose church orthodoxy, and they believe the real God is a God without anything artificial. And then we have Draka, who doesn't even believe in God. She's an atheist in the Middle Ages, and she isn't afraid to tell anyone about her beliefs, which surprisingly a lot of people just let her be. But another thing is she's driven by money, because right before her dad died, her dad left her money, so she thought that, okay, money is my conviction. I gotta earn money. And she even proposed that, you know what, in order to make the village more useful, and in order to make the village have more benefits, maybe we should have people work separately, and so that the money they earn is proportional to how much effort they give. Which seems like it makes a lot of sense until you hear the rebuttal, which is, well, if that happens, it's going to tear the society apart. There's going to be nothing but competition. It's going to be broken. It's going to be a broken system. And holy shit, that's capitalism. And Draka sort of transitions from believing in capitalism to believing in heliocentrism. It's not mutually exclusive, but you can see her conviction change, especially when she let others use the coins that she had to melt into lead so that they can be poured into a movable type, a printer, an ancient printer, a medieval printer. And it's such an interesting takedown on capitalism. Now we have episodes 24 and 25, the last two episodes, and without spoiling it, it's a curveball. Something really strange happens, a character is reintroduced, and you're like, what the fuck? This character's not dead? What? And it's a huge curveball, and I understand that some people may find it kind of weird, but I think it is a great way to end off the anime. Because for me, the last two episodes are the epilogue of the anime. We essentially see what happens in real life. We essentially see Albert Brudjevsky, who is a very real person, a real a real physicist who existed in Poland in the late 15th century. And at the very end, the show reveals that one of his students is Copernicus. And when I watched that part, I was like, full circle moment. And it's beautiful because the anime just shows us a bunch of story that's probably fictional, and then we see what happened in real life, and we're like, wow, that's beautiful, because this is here and now, and it's relatable to us. For some people, it's like, wow, you just undermined all of the story before, but for me, it really worked because the anime is really proving a point. Tsuda Kenjiro, who plays Novak in this film, in this anime, is absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the best voice acting performances I've seen from him, because he plays the same character over 3 different time points, and you can hear him age, and that's such a great acting thing. Now, the final thing I want to talk about in this review might be a little controversial, but when people complain that heliocentrism isn't suppressed in real life, then why is it suppressed in the story? It's not historically accurate. I think they're kind of missing the point, because this isn't just about heliocentrism. It's about ideas being suppressed. And what are ideas being suppressed? Well, a lot of political ideas nowadays, and especially in the past, are really, really suppressed. In a lot of ways, this is one of the most progressive and liberal animes I've ever seen. Not only the focus on feminism and also people who are illiterate and trying to get them to the top, bring them power, empower these characters, right? Almost all of the main characters are underdogs, or they are victims of something. They're victims of the system. They are in a lower class, especially Draka, literally working class, lower class peasant. And this anime is bringing a kind of class consciousness that I don't see a lot of other animes bring. And also, it's about carrying an idea from person to person. This reminds me a lot of Soviet films that have a similar quality, where there isn't exactly a main character, but it's an idea that passes on from person to person to person. And it's so politically progressive. It's so, like, don't focus on the man, don't focus on the person, focus on the idea. It's the idea that lives on. And it's so beautiful because of that, actually. So, you know what? I'm very impressed. This is a masterpiece, and I highly doubt 2025 will offer an even better anime. I'm giving Orb on the Movements of the Earth a strong 9 out of 10. So have you watched Orb? Comments below, let me know. Subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.